just for the board?
Yep.
Is that fair?
Okay, there we go.
All right, 5:46. We had some IT issues and some late arrivals, so we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Gail, roll call.
Tyler.
Here.
Jeff.
Yep.
John.
Here.
Deb. Here. Andrew.
Here.
All present.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, agenda approved. We've got Trent and Kevin here from Grunmeyer Leader Services to talk about the superintendent search. So the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Good to see you guys again, and thanks for putting your trust in us to work through this process. We do enjoy it and look forward to working for you and getting the right superintendent district leader in the end. So again, thank you for us and looking forward to it. You probably saw, thanks to Tyler and Gail for taking a look at some of the initial documents we sent. That's just kind of a platform, if you will, that you can get used to in regard to sending information ahead of board meetings, giving you at least hopefully a week or days to look at information, and then coming to a work session or a board meeting so we can discuss and make decisions. But try to do all the legwork we can to make your board meetings productive and efficient, similar to that. So one thing we shared with you tonight or prior was some of the initial, we call them initial set of questions that we need to guide the search and really get it off and running. And so we won't throw you any surprises tonight. We'll talk salary and benefits. We'll talk timeline. We'll talk candidates a little bit, stakeholder survey, job posting, which you've had a chance to proof and give us feedback on, and why it's called a work session tonight. And I will probably suggest and jinx myself here that the hardest part of the work session is finding the dates. Get everybody's calendars right so that we can publish our timeline. That's usually the point that takes you the most to get everybody's schedules organized. But in our experience, the sooner that we can get a hiring timeline out there to the public and the staff and on our calendars, the less emails and questions, and it's good to present to candidates as well. So I'm going to take our notes on this, and Kevin and I will certainly advise you, but open all the discussion up in the world tonight to get to some direction to guide our process here. So that's where we're going tonight. Any other questions that have come up, or I'd just like to start and ask, last time I was on Zoom, Kevin was here, and sounds like he did a good job, so thanks for those comments, Jeff. But any questions about our process that we presented and recommended in that initial presentation that you want to follow up on or clarify or ask before we get into some of the other details tonight?
I don't have any questions.
My only, it's not really a question, but just back to just confirming that we have some alignment between a stakeholder survey, those that are involved in the interview process, and what the final decision is, that there's some alignment there so that there's not any misgivings about who's making the decision and how different stakeholder groups get involved in the process. So I'm sure you'll walk through it, but I think that's really an important thing that we're looking forward to a search firm helping us with that.
Yep. So let me answer that question real directly just to confirm again and give you the peace of mind in that, because I think that's a strength of ours, to be honest, objectifying the process in that. And what I'm going to tell you is when we look at that stakeholder survey tonight, and I don't know what's going to prioritize out of that, but I'm going to bring it back to the board when it closes and say, this is the priorities that came out of that by the different groups. And since it's your job as a board to hire the superintendent, you're going to give us the direction and say, yep, we've heard the community, we've heard our staff, and yet we want to add this, or we want to edit this, or you're going to give us the guidance in those top things. Then we're going to hold you pretty accountable through the process. So when we go back to, after the survey, when we go back to coming to present the candidates, you're going to get a summary on every candidate based on me and him rating the candidates separately, pulling out bullets that we think are what you want. Right? So we're not pulling out of thin air these candidates top down. We're showing you, we rated this person 1 because they hit all these marks you said you wanted.
All of those things are done all the way through our process, and I'll jump ahead. Like when the people whoever you select to be on your interview committee or committees, that's what we'll ask them to rate each of those categories as well, and you'll get all of that data. I've never been involved with a hiring process through 39 years of education that's as aligned as this one. Very aligned this.
Okay.
So survey would be first. You guys give us, you set those priorities. We're going to screen candidates for you and bring them back, but again, you get to decide who to move forward. We're just trying to be objective again. Then you're going to see when we help you script questions for those screening interviews that are usually via Zoom, you can see on this, what you want. If it's build community relations, we're going to help. We're going to say, we think this is a great question. What do you think? And if we don't hit the mark, we revise the question. So again, we're making that tight because we're going to ask you to evaluate those candidates at the end of that night. Then we go further, like Kevin said, and we get the formal interviews back. This is already set up. So we'll customize this to those same things you said you wanted. And when you invite everybody else to the table to interview and ask their questions, you're going to come back and ask them about those specific things, just to advise your decisions again. And then we will synthesize that back in something like this to look at that feedback. So I can tell you with confidence, we'll keep the process tight. And you're not going to have more objective data than you may have too much, but we're going to give you everything you need to make the right decision.
And it sounds like the communication back to the stakeholders of where we're driving to.
That would be, my question, I think now is slightly different than what you asked, but just maybe a comment, just to make sure that throughout this process, it's clear to stakeholders who are participating that we're certainly interested in their input, but that it's not, everybody's not voting, is I think my concern, just being clear, right? I was involved in this one time and I'm not sure it was that clear. Like, thank you for your input, and that's really important to us, that everybody take a look at it, but at the end of the day, I think you said this too. The decision is here in this room.
It's your legal responsibility to do this. So, yeah.
Yeah,
And we, in several of the releases that we'll write to send out to everybody or anybody, we'll highlight all of these characteristics once they're selected. And we'll hit the process any number of times. And so, yeah. Good points.
Well, the other thing is Kevin and I sit in with all those interview teams. The only one we tend not to sit in is the board. Now we'll still bring candidates in, introduce them to you, but we want that to be authentic, but we sit in those groups. So we talk to them at the beginning. We go through the questions that they wanted to ask. We debrief with them at the end. So, I think that becomes very clear and we reiterate that to them as well. So
perfect, thank you.
it's a great question.
Yeah, one that I have is when we get down to the final, pick the number, if it's 8 or 5 or, whatever that
For
number
the
is.
semifinalists. Yeah.
For the semifinalists, just how you integrate, if you're familiar with strength-based leadership, one of the things that I'm thinking about is I want to make sure, we have an influencer with some strategic and obviously good people skills, but that not only do they talk that, it kind of shows up when they do the profile. And so whatever tools you guys have to best do that translates to that, that's one of the things I'm going to be interested in. And so you guys can kind of tell me how that works with what you have, but kind of hey, here's the experience. And then, hey, when we do the profiles, it backs up everything they said. So it's kind of a double check on this final 8 that we have really do come out that way. And if you have any more questions about, those traits, that's one of the things I want to confirm if we can.
Yep. Well, I think we will be able to confirm that with a couple different checks.
Okay, good.
When they apply, by the way, they have to provide evidence. So we take, the top 8 or 10 things that superintendents are normally desired, right? And we say, don't just tell us what you've done in these areas, show us the evidence. So you'll see that in the final narrative, the evidence they've submitted. So that's one check. When we screen, remember, we tend to flip half those questions. And so you'll help us script those questions around, doer, business analytic, personality assessment, those type of things. And half them, they get an advance to think through. And then in the end, you're going to see the advanced insights profiles to kind of back up and fact check all of those other indicators and how they present.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
And we always have the option, they fill out the advanced insights when they apply. And so we always have the option of bringing that data to you for the semifinalist instead of waiting for the finalist too. We'll talk about that as this unfolds.
Okay, that sounds good. I just want to make
I'm with you.
the other board members know where I'm at, because I have a whole bunch of people that work for me that make me look a lot better than I really am. And so that's what, we want to sort out.
Yeah. Keep in mind too, not to get off, scripted all here, but, we call more than references too.
Okay, good.
So I think the other piece, we're putting our name
Yeah.
behind these
Good.
people as well. So we'll give you the references, but we're in closed session to also give you everything else we uncovered. too.
Okay,
So,
good.
fair question. And good questions.
Absolutely.
Gail, anything from last time?
No.
You content?
Mhm.
Okay. So just want to start there. Again, we might as well get the hard stuff out of the way. And so you can see up here, we're going to take a peek at that stakeholder survey here pretty soon, but let's outline our hiring timeline if that's okay. This would be when we look at our schedules, and if somebody would pull up the district calendar, that's going to be important for this process too. So we'll make some recommendations on some time frames, and then we'd like to get on your calendars and any correspondence that goes out on the survey and postings and stuff after tonight, we'll have this timeline. So it's nice to communicate to the candidates and the public. So the stakeholder survey, depending on how much feedback you guys give us tonight, how many changes need to be made, could be go out as early as tomorrow or early next week. And with that, it is one link. The link is the same, whether it goes to the district or the community or the social media or anything else, because the first question is, who are you responding from? And it's anonymous unless they put their name in. So as a rule of thumb, the more feedback, sorry, I feel like I keep putting my back to you. The more feedback we can get on that, the better, right? Because we're just bringing that to you to guide your, what you want from there. So we'll be prepared again, depending on the feedback, to get that out soon. And we recommend 10 days to 2 weeks, leaving that open with a prompt or two in between there to get people to fill it out. So I would start there and just ask and look at Gail a little bit too and say, you know, what's the timeline with everything else going on in the district that you want to get this, and Thanksgiving coming up, that we want to get that, assuming you want to use the survey to get that feedback out there.
So is normal time frame, is there like is this usually you leave it out there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
10 days, 2 weeks. We've seen that actually the more prompts you give, people are going to fill it out after 10 days, and then they're going to get survey fatigue after that and take it or not take it. So we haven't seen leaving it open 3 weeks or anything really helps. But 10 days, 2 weeks, I think is reasonable.
But pushing on a prompt 2 or 3 times during the course of it, usually it picks up.
And I saw it, and I kind of saw that in your stakeholder survey, that 20th or 30th time frame for that survey. My only question on that is with Thanksgiving in between there, and you've got kind of people a little bit disconnected from the district for about a 4 or 5 day period of that. So my thought to be maybe extend a little bit beyond that, just because we get them back, maybe after Thanksgiving, we get them back in focus.
Yep,
Sure.
it's a good point.
Like the 4th, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I
Go
was,
to the 20.
just to give it a few more days, because really from like Wednesday through Sunday, you know, we got 5 days there, people are checked out.
Yeah, well, you hope they do.
Yeah.
I would normally be.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
year. Yeah.
What's everybody think about that? 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's good. I think that works.
I think
Yeah.
that's fine.
And Gail, do you think we can get that out tomorrow?
Sure.
I'll make it easy on you. It's a Word doc or a link, and just newsletter, Power School or Infinite Campus, paper, parent, any which way you can get it out, you know, the more feedback, the better.
Anything in every avenue that you have as a district.
Then about every 3 days, I will give you an update on the population and who's completing it. And that way, if we don't see parents, you know, we can push it this way, or, you know.
You may want to put in there too, that it's up to you, but if you have some people that are not ever going to get on and do a Google thing, just mention somewhere that there's a hard copy at the district office or the local restaurant, I don't care, wherever you want to put them. So you always try to stay ahead of any potential criticism. Well, I don't use a computer. Well, that's why we're giving you a piece of paper.
Yeah, they can do it in the office, district office.
And we can pick those up, or you can scan them and send them, and then we basically just plug them in so we have all the data in one place.
What's the average percentage of, I mean, is it 10%, 20%? What number do you typically see?
But it's less than.
The funny thing is, this is a general rule of thumb. The smaller the district, the higher the participation in general.
It's crazy.
We just,
Makes sense.
yeah,
That kind of does
Yeah.
more than
Big deal, yeah.
Gardner Hayfield, we just posted 2 days
I've got
ago,
one pulled up.
300 people,
How many?
about 300 already. Thanks.
They probably only got a couple thousand now.
Yeah, so
Well,
good
and
feedback.
when Trent updates you too, or sends out an update on where you're at, it'll tell you that you've got 45 parents, but let's really push getting more parents or students or whatever the stakeholder group. You'll know the numbers of, as you get updated through this.
We can push through social media too.
Yeah, I have a website, Infinite Campus, Facebook. I know we've got all those, and then we could just say they're available at the district office.
Do you have a Twitter, district Twitter account?
We do.
The culmination of the survey, we then meet again, or how would you go about the review of the characteristics?
This is, you can tell us if you want to do it different, but what we normally do is we'll synthesize that data and create a report for you. It'll show some representative comments, and then it'll show the priorities and the themes that came out of it. And I usually create a video then and go over it and then push it out to you, and then give you a chance, week, 2 weeks, and then when we come meet again, then we can discuss, but at least you've seen the initial feedback. And that's not public unless you want it to be, but I just push that video out to you guys to review first.
And all that can be simultaneous with the application process, it looks like. So this is simply kind of gearing up for tightening what we're looking for.
Yes.
Well said. It tightens up as we move along, absolutely.
Now, I will offer this because I know it's a priority for you guys. We really strongly recommend, I think we talked about this on the phone, Andrew, getting a survey out first. And then if you want us to meet or do a town hall or meet with some groups, good with that. I shy away from just meeting with groups without the survey because you get, a more narrow feedback. So I like the big wide net. Then if you can give us, we can do it a week or two into the survey or even after, then we can ask more detailed questions to the folks that come to that as well. So we're just offering, if we come meet with you, we're happy to come early, meet with groups, open it up. But we feel like again, the purpose of the survey is to go back to the board and say, this is what your general population and staff are saying. But I want to offer that to you as well as some in-person meetings.
But if we have what we think is a reasonable turnout for the survey and there's pretty clear trends,
Yeah.
that may not be necessary.
And with today's environment.
Very true.
I mean, it'd be
So
virtual.
let's just say we're not probably gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
And let's use like you're saying.
Try to make sure we get a good survey response. And
Yeah, I think,
You actually get far more feedback. I've been through on both sides of those things, and the face-to-face is great, but you don't get a big turnout.
Sure.
And quite often, the people that show up to those things, unless you really control it, are the ones that you're already pretty sure where they're at.
Yeah.
Historically, so.
so yeah, let's not do that if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I have a question. Is this the sample survey or the invitation that's gonna go out?
That's the one I'm working off of yet.
Okay, oh, never mind, you scroll down and it says superintendent search. I was just curious about, it didn't say superintendent search, but up on top it does, okay.
Yeah, I just changed that like 2 minutes ago when I caught it, so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But I want you to see too, Gail, that literally depending on what application you throw it out there, you can, the link is the same. If it's a document you send the newspaper, it's the same website. Hopefully it makes it easy for you.
Just to echo, I mean, Jeff kind of said we'll scratch it, but in my mind, I think we're gonna get feedback, which is great. If for some reason we don't get the feedback, then I think we're
Can
gonna.
always-
It's almost a plan.
Invitation's on the table if you
Yeah,
want,
sure.
yeah. It's not a one or other.
I think we'll get feedback.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
So let's talk about the application period. I suggested November 20th. I don't think we're going to be able to get it posted maybe quite that fast, maybe next week, even though we could. I mean, we can turn it around if you want to by tomorrow. I haven't started. But here's the other thing I want to say before we set this application period. You're going to get a quality pool. I'll just say that right off the cuff because I've had lots of conversations about the job already. But I will also say that we're seeing a trend this year, which maybe shouldn't be a surprise, of candidate pools populating a little slower than they have in the last couple of years. So I also want to be sensitive to, another week wouldn't hurt. Again, getting it before Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to be an advantage. I think it's a huge advantage, as I shared last time. We can always extend it. But I'm just seeing that, just being honest with you, we're having to have a lot of tough conversations, not tough. I mean, getting through to superintendents is the tough part, and then having the conversation is the easy part, just because of how busy they are and how many distractions they're dealing with right now. And the passive candidates are the ones that are looking, they're going to apply. So I'm really talking about the ones that need a nudge that weren't looking because things are good. So I said the 30th, and I guess that's the long way of saying I wouldn't be opposed to leaving it open until the 4th or a little longer either. Or with the understanding that let's see where we're at on the 30th and maybe put it out there another week or so too.
I mean, I would think we're not in a rush, right? I mean,
no, I think we're good on time.
so the only question would be if we're too slow that we might miss somebody that goes somewhere else. Is that the only risk we're taking by?
Yep.
So
And the
I
only
would-
one that's ahead of you, I just checked this yesterday on Teach Iowa, is Urbandale.
So I would agree. I think we can take the time that's needed. I'd rather see that than feel like we rushed through it and
Yeah.
missed somebody.
And I
wanna
think
miss
most
a good
schools can go
candidate.
back that January 4th, 5th, 6th. I think to me, we can extend it into the, like you said, maybe early January, just because that's when their most breaks.
Yeah.
The schools are going on for Christmas break. I think, I don't even know what it is. but-
So what if we looked at the front date being Monday, the 23rd?
Yeah.
Does that work for people?
Yeah.
Trent, did I give you enough time to
Gives me
dump
the weekend.
everything on me?
But
See if he was listening.
that'd be nice over, what I think you told us is over these breaks,
That's when
is when those that are fully employed might be taking a little break and think
Actually have time to think of.
So I think we want to capture Thanksgiving break, and I think we want to leave it open through Christmas break.
And it's been on the website since the night we got the search. It's been there, so that gives people a little extra time to think about it. And like I said, I'm getting some calls on it already, so. Yeah.
What about Sunday, January 3rd?
I have.
We start the 4th. And our school starts back the 4th, which is probably pretty common for Iowa.
Yes.
So I'd say January 3rd for now would be great.
We historically do the Sundays just because the weekends is when
Sundays at midnight.
they have time.
And if we talk to candidates, and there's some that need more time, we can either keep it open another week, or we can say, nope, you 3 candidates get extra time, you had most of your stuff in, or whatever. So we're not gonna cut a good candidate off on that night, but that's a good time.
And Trent can see in the program, the Apple Track program or the frontline, he can see who has started, where they're at in the process before they ever hit submit, so.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I will tell you every Monday when I send candidates to Gail, that she'll push back out to you guys. You'll see their cover letter, resume, and any references they had submitted right away. And we're doing the reference checks behind, but I will tell you, here's 5 new applicants. We have 13 that have started an application right now.
In the pipeline.
So you'll know. And I started doing that because, you'll have a bunch start and then they'll pile up towards the end. And so I want the boards to have the peace of mind, because I do, that you have more applicants, but they're not done yet. So that's why I tell you how many are
And
working.
almost invariably, somewhere in the process, you'll go, we really aren't getting as many applicants as we thought. Patience, because right at the end, it's a flurry usually. Invariably, it
Oh,
is.
sure.
You hear that, Jeff?
You got a lot. You only need one, the right one.
That's right. That's right.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
so
only need one.
then we need a good week to finish references, background checks, social media checks, all that type of research for you. And then we will come back normally in a closed session for the majority of that meeting per their request. And we'll send you their request as part of the application to review the candidates in closed session. That normally takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how many candidates. Because we're not just reviewing candidates, we're also reviewing screening questions for the, keeping you 2 steps ahead. So I'm looking at the week of January 11th or the following week to come back and meet with you guys for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
We have a regular board meeting on Monday, the January 11th, is our regular board meeting.
How long are your normal board meetings?
Again.
We don't know.
Depends on COVID.
Depends if we can start on time.
We'll just take that.
I got
That's how
nothing for
it's
that, other
That's
than
how
well
it's
played.
Yeah.
I like it.
That won't happen again.
I don't think we want to put it on.
That's what I'm
time.
asking.
I think it needs separate.
Yeah.
Will that be a pre-read though? I mean, you can send everything to us, so,
At a time.
yeah, so we can pre-read it and then we can make notes and,
And you'll have applicants every Monday, so you'll have seen them and then you'll see our summaries.
well, that's what that's what I really want, yeah.
But there'll still be discussion because, we'll review and give you the Paul Harvey and then kind of the majority goes if you want to bring that, somebody forward.
Yeah, it just needs to be something we can work on ahead of time.
Yeah, I'd just soon, for that one, it'd be a dedicated meeting.
I agree.
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
What about
Okay.
like the 14th of that week, like that Thursday? I know we all have our calendars full up through the.
Right now, it's open.
I know, it's nothing,
So
just
how's
I'm
open?
laughing.
Just
What-
kind of give everybody a heads up. I'll be tied up till 5 o'clock every day that week except for the 15th.
You want to go the next week?
Friday.
I mean, we can go that week, but as long as everybody's good with evenings, if we want to start
Like
earlier than that, we
after
can not have
We
one.
could be evening.
Yeah, 5.
So
2 hour
on
meeting isn't a
Thursday,
big deal.
in the evening of Thursday,
Yeah, if I looked at our, we only had, I think that Jason gave us,
Thursday,
it's a
1:14.
JV and varsity wrestling.
So I could
That was both.
I could hit 5:30 on the 5:30 or 6 o'clock. and that'll work.
I'm okay with 6, then I can get.
You can eat.
All right.
All right, sounds good.
6 p.m.
6 o'clock.
That extra half hour, Jeff, will be here 15 minutes early.
What's the date on, you guys give me a hard time, what's the date?
We give you our.
I was just gonna say, what?
January, okay.
Thursday, the 14th.
6 o'clock.
That's 6, geez, I just.
6:50.
All right, I don't want to jinx this, but this is going pretty well.
Yeah, fine.
All right, board
I heard
screens the
that.
candidates, so let's pencil this out now. So we bring you 25 plus candidates, we have the summaries together, we go through each one of those, and there's normally a natural cutoff, right? You get to 10, 12, 15, and you're like, okay, we see why these qualify a little higher than others. But you'll see them all. So then if you direct us to go get 5, 7, 8 interviews and set those up for the screening interviews next week, we need about a week for candidates to prep because they have some questions to prep for. We got to set up the tech and then we'll come back. So I'm looking at the week of late that following week or the week of the 25th for screening interviews. And that one, you may need a Red Bull or something because that's usually, 3.5 hours.
It's 30 minutes per candidate plus debriefing, which you hope 2 or 3 candidates rise to the top, and it's obvious, but that isn't always the case.
And is this when we're seeing them on Zoom?
Yes.
It's with them screening them? Okay, oh, screening interview.
So if it was in here, we'd probably put them over there. We'll put the camera, we bring a conference cam in the middle. We start with introductions and then it's pretty quick, but you will know some candidates that you've seen on paper, you're excited about, others you're like, glad we got to know them a little better.
Yeah.
And we walk you through a rating process just to start the discussion. So you kind of see who collectively surfaces and discuss from there. But again, it's usually 3.5 hours.
It is. And we usually, you can certainly ask questions if you want. We usually ask the questions and run everything, so you can focus on what they're saying.
Are we as a group opposed to doing an early afternoon?
I can that week.
You can that week?
I agree.
Debbie?
Yeah,
I mean, can we
4
do-
o'clock start?
Well, I'm thinking even earlier than that.
Well, we got school going on.
Is somebody
Well,
ready
but
to go?
they're not gonna bother, we're in this room.
I got billable hours, he doesn't.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't care. I can do anytime. I just
Yeah.
want-
For you, Jeff, I'd do it.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Does it matter for the candidates though? I mean, if they
It's
have,
school.
well, I guess it's just that half hour, we're asking them to break away via Zoom, so it's not like we're asking them to come in person.
And if we
So
let them
we-
know early,
Yeah.
they'll normally kind of cater to us.
Yeah.
And if it's 3 hours, we have a little flexibility in there.
Right.
By the way, just so I say this so it doesn't happen, normally if that's the day we dedicate and somebody can't rearrange to make it work, I set up and record the same session with them ahead of time, and then once their time slot, I play the recording.
Okay.
So we can do them all at the same time. We're kind of big on, we don't want 2
Get her
nights.
done, yeah.
Well, and I think it's important for the candidates, you're reviewing everybody the same night, the same people. So that's why we recommend when you bring 3 finalists back, it's the same day, same people involved. So just think it's a more credible process.
So you
So how
do
about the afternoon of the 25th?
3 o'clock on the 25th?
The only thing I have to say is, I don't remember what time it is it 3:15? This place is locked down with buses and parents, you can't get in
No, we'll get here about
or out.
1:45, we'll be all right.
All the
So,
candidates, I guess.
They're coming,
Yeah,
there's,
time.
there's.
There's Zoom.
You're-
Yeah, what time
It's
are
not, we're gonna have to get here about
you
2:30.
guys get here before that
Does it move you up
happens.
any Gale meeting earlier? Does
What do
that
you wanna
move
do,
you up
2:30?
before school's out?
It doesn't
No,
matter.
3's all right, really matter. Sorry, let's just get here early.
I'm gonna complicate it a little bit. Actually, you could run that, couldn't you? Screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin will be here for that one then, if that's okay, because I'm booked that night.
Well, I thought when you said early, why couldn't we go earlier?
Okay,
3, like 1,
It doesn't have to be Monday too.
yeah, right.
yeah, whatever works for you guys. We
If
want
you
you
go,
guys.
if you go earlier, but I am pre-scheduled at Colo that night.
No, whatever you guys wanna do.
What
I
time
mean,
would you recommend?
Yeah, we can do it
We can
earlier.
do 26th. We're not set on 25th.
If you could do 1 or 2, I think that'd be just fine, and then I can get over that board
Shoot
meeting.
over there from there.
Let's do that.
I'm good with that.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
On
And
Monday,
that'll give you enough time?
Should you,
on Monday the
25th at
25th.
2 p.m.
3.5 hours, 5.5, what time you gonna be over there?
by 6.
Let's, if we're gonna do 2, let's do 1 and we'll give him some time. He's gonna have the floor to get there.
You'll buy me dinner too then, right?
Okay, I'll bring dinner in.
It's okay, because the interviews would be over by then. You might be finishing debriefing, but you
Let's
know.
just do 1, they'll do 1.
So January 25th, 1 o'clock. Most of those are normally closed session for candidates' requests. If they're not, it's partly open session, partly closed, and again, that's their request.
So how do we handle that?
And we can do that, it's based on their request, but
So we would start, what I would try to do is structure the interviews, the open ones, say first or last. And so then we call the meeting to action, we do the open ones, and then you go into closed session after that, do the 3 or 4 that are closed.
They can request it.
Can't we just do them all closed?
Well,
They have to
It's
request
based
it.
off of their request.
Which we get in the application process. So it's
It's at 8
documented.
o'clock IASB this morning.
It might be that they all do request it, but it's just based off of the way they.
Most of them will request closed.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll want to make sure we really check the district calendar on this, recommending perhaps the week of February 8th, and let's duplicate the snow date so it doesn't happen, for formal interviews. And we will look at some schedules tonight, normally
Did you say what date?
Just the week of.
just the week of, yeah.
Okay.
What's
But
our board meeting that month?
The
That
8th.
would be the 8th.
You do know that. No, never mind, it's not on here. Okay, I'm looking at the calendar right here. So Monday, the 8th, there's a 6th to 8th grade choir concert.
We have a board meeting on the 8th, so we'll want to.
Maybe later that week.
what about the 11th, the Thursday again?
The Thursday?
What's that look like?
Yeah, that's okay. There's a basketball game in.
And historically, just jumping ahead, he'll show you some schedules, but you're talking from, for the board involvement sometime mid-afternoon through the evening.
For that one, I need the 12th, that second week of the month is earliest for me, so I could do the 12th, but I need
Which
to
is
go
a
the following
Friday.
week if we're gonna be in the afternoons.
What would the impact of Friday, or using a Friday be for your group? And I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but for your mixed interview teams that you're gonna involve.
That's the mixed interview day.
On a Friday, yeah.
Do I just go the next week then?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
February 18th, yeah.
let's see.
well,
You can go anytime during that
We
week.
could do
Well, yeah,
that.
anytime that week, but
Yeah, then I'm,
President's Day is Monday. Just throwing that out there.
John's free, they don't work that day
I
either.
usually have a gathering on
the
President's Day.
only day that week that wouldn't be good for me would just be
Bring
that
people over to my house.
Tuesday, the
16th.
16th, I'd have a board meeting that afternoon, but the rest of the days I'm
go to that Thursday then.
17th, 18th, it's up to you guys.
Go back for a second and humor an old man here. On the 15th, that's actually President's Day. Will some of your patrons have that day off from work?
So that might be a good day or
Some
something.
Yeah, it might be a good.
It might
day.
be, and part of it'll go is if you have the groups face-to-face or if they're done Zoom. If they're done Zoom, it doesn't matter. But, you know,
I'm all
you,
right on the 15th.
15th works for me.
Yeah,
I will
but-
just say at 7 o'clock on the 15th, that's when we have the Ames Chamber Singers with the choir concert. At 7, so if we're done before, if this is wrapped up before 7,
you probably won't be.
It's not likely.
I'm
Not likely?
just,
Not like
Did you
this.
say
Are
what?
you, is that involve you?
no, I'm just saying if we're worried about people coming or something.
Oh, no,
They should be
group-
done.
Group involvement will be done. You,
The board
you,
can be done.
by that time, it's your show.
Okay,
So
then that
that's
works,
16th.
yeah.
And what time do we need to block out for that then?
We'll look at schedules in just a moment. I'd say afternoon, evening.
So Monday, 2:15, is that what we said?
Yep.
It's February 15th, correct?
Sweet.
Now, what about, I know we talked about some dates later that week. Could we put down perhaps Wednesday, Thursday, or that Friday for a snow day?
11th, or the 18th, 17th,
Yeah.
18th.
Yeah, either one of those, what does the
Yeah.
calendar look like for the
I'm sorry.
17th or 18th?
Snow day, Thursday, 2/18,
It does not.
17, 18.
Nothing,
or
Make
7.
the
There's
call,
nothing on
make the
the
call.
nothing on the 17th and 18th.
Nothing on the 17th.
Nothing on the 17th.
Set that time for 2:15 on that date as well.
Yeah. Does the 17th or 18th work better for most of you?
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they both work.
John, good?
We'll just put them both
Wednesday or
down.
Thursday?
We have 2 snow dates, that guarantees we won't use it.
I like Thursday.
Thursday.
We make time for this, John, we get paid quite well.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of friends
I
benefits.
understand that.
That's the makeup day.
Did we pick a date, the 17th and 18th?
15th.
Either one,
15th and 18th.
17th and
Snow
18th.
day would be
18th,
17th or
I say
18th.
18th.
You said
We'll
18th.
Snow
put
day,
them both down.
18th, okay.
18th.
We did set a time.
2:30, 2:15.
We'll get that when you look at
February
your.
That was
15th
February.
is what that was about. I don't know if we set a time, but it'd be,
We haven't set
I suppose 1 o'clock.
It'll be dictated by your schedule
Okay.
that you choose.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 1 o'clock start, 12
Block
o'clock,
the
11,
afternoon and the
2,
Yes.
whatever.
January 14th, we have 6 PM, January 25th, we have 1 PM, and then the other 15th and 18th will be scheduled.
It'll be laid out, you bet.
Okay, so just want to take, you guys had a draft of this. I will certainly update this now that we have the dates. And again, with your patrons, they're going to see the hiring timeline now, which will save you questions, which is good to get this information out there. But this is really wide open. You know, this is a traditional survey we use, but we really do get a lot of great feedback. So you can see, even though the link is the same, people pick, you know, who they're completing this for. So if you have somebody who's a parent and a student, they obviously can complete the form. Like to ask about the strength areas and points of pride, and we'll get lots of them. We're going to look for themes and bring those back to you, as well as some of the challenges and areas of improvement. Then we get into some of the meat and potatoes here, asking them to pick the most important skills and qualifications professionally that they're looking for. And normally there's a really nice natural cutoff to this too. You know, 5 things really surface, and then there's a 20-point gap, and it's like, oh, that's pretty clear what people want.
Okay.
And there's no surprise here. It's normally what they feel like we can't lose that Lindsay has, or things that they feel like they don't have in your current superintendent. And I don't always know that, but that becomes pretty clear from your public and your staff. Just a quick note on this. These are aligned to the Iowa Standards for School Leaders that are now going to be adopted July 1 to the new PESL standards and NELP standards. So that's where these are from. These aren't just pulled from thin air. These are the standards. This is a little longer list. If you said on here, Trent, we don't see something on this, we want to add one and just see where it falls. It's fine. Let's add it. See if it's a priority or not. And then the next section here talks about personal traits and qualities they want. So we can kind of break those different. It is interesting to tell, you know, are the personal traits prioritized, you know, higher than the professional, or they kind of equal? And again, that normally goes back to your current superintendent, what people are wanting. And they can put an other in both section here as well. And then why do they believe? This is kind of the catch-all to help us understand and explain the results, and then what advice. And the advice, normally really good advice, other than the students will say more school days and better lunch, every survey. We grab that advice, I throw it in a Word doc. When you hire your new superintendent, we make sure they get it. And then we go over it with them when they create their entry plan, their first year goals. So they get that back. So that's an overview. I am wide open to any feedback, edits, additions you want to add to that survey before it goes out live tomorrow.
I haven't seen that yet.
You didn't?
No, I didn't get it.
That was a link.
Was it, oh, that's
It was,
fine.
Yeah, it was in the email link.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you use this obviously. And
Yeah.
I mean, my first thought was that's a long list,
List.
pared down to 3, but if you've used it, you feel like you get the trends you need. I mean, I don't know why.
Well, that's how you
Yeah.
do the trend, yeah. That's we hired you. You know, if that's what you say we need to do, let's go.
I agree.
Cool.
It sure makes it easier than having a lot of free form.
I don't know which ones I tell you to take off. That's the struggle,
Yeah.
right? The
Right.
minute you take one off, people are like, where's
Right.
that one? Well, there's another. Well, not enough people are going to put it down.
I mean, the key will be to get a good response and get
100%.
lots of feedback, right?
I like it.
I think we're good.
Yep, it's good.
Nothing you want to throw on there and just see
No,
where it
no,
comes back?
no,
Or-
no.
Okay, they're aligned to the standard, so it's, so again, I'll give you updates. I'll give you updates every couple days, see how it's populated. We'll push it maybe 2 or 3 times. Then I'll anticipate a report and a video overview, and then we'll talk about it when we come back. Okay, stakeholder survey done. Kevin, anything else on that?
I've moved on.
Okay, let's go to the job posting. Hopefully you saw a draft of that. And same thing, we try our best. You want me to broadcast this? I will broadcast this as well. So if we just took a stab at, based on your website and community websites, putting this together, again, we will populate the heading here with this information as soon as we have it again, or now that we have it. This should be enough that it gets people's attention and gives key information about your community and your district, not so much that it doesn't make them go dig a little deeper. I think that's kind of the balance with your candidates. So again, wide open, we want to make sure it's accurate and represents your district and community well. So I'll play a little Doogie Howser here and update this as you give us feedback.
One thing that I thought when I saw this, which might not be a big deal, maybe because you are wanting them to dive in deeper.
Yeah.
Our district actually is like 75% of it is in Ames. It's not like in the way it's represented here, it's just north of Ames, and the truth is like our district is Ames, North Ames, and Gilbert, the surrounding communities. I don't know if that matters or not, but
Comprising students from both
Yeah.
Gilbert and North Ames.
yeah. Well, just
That's
because I
really
mean,
good
some,
term. That's a good term.
some might want, and some might be more interested in
Yeah,
a
fix that.
slightly larger community or something.
Yep.
And then, I don't know if we need to say
I think it's in there.
It says and growing, but I mean, do we? Is that? I mean,
Well, I
we're
think
small
big
town,
picture,
we're
we
small
are.
town, Phil.
Yeah,
Really fine, that's.
if we could, we didn't grow this last year.
Yeah, we
so
could.
If you want
Next
to
year.
put our average growth rate for the last 5 years.
Who told 28 people no?
I
Focus.
think.
I think it's
we're all right.
fine.
Says
I think it's
steadily,
fine.
growing steadily.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta capture this, I didn't get it fast enough. Comprising students from North Ames.
Both Gilbert and.
Both Gilbert
and
and
Ames.
North Ames, yeah.
That's a good addition.
That's good.
Well, I think, we have steady growth. I mean, it's not a large growth, but it is steady. And if they're a
It's certainly not
superintendent with
declining.
experience, they're gonna know that everybody this year, it's
I-
it's in the same boat.
I-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It would not be
Yeah.
surprising to them to know that we had a drop in enrollment.
I mean,
So-
maybe if it's not a state person, but if it's somebody in Iowa and
They
they
would
don't know
know.
about our
Yeah.
Yeah.
district, I don't know that they're probably on our list.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The only thing I saw was on the second page.
Yep.
And I don't know if we need to, but if we were tooting our horn, I mean, the middle
Oh,
school is relatively new, 2006, and the high school is new, 2013. I mean, it talks about additions, but I mean, those structures are.
It's high school, 7 years old.
Why that's good is anybody that's responsible for buildings,
Yeah,
Yeah,
not having old ones is a.
so like the
Right.
middle school built in 2006 with the addition of 4 new classrooms and enlarged locker rooms in
Very nice.
2020.
Yeah, very nice.
And the high school, same thing, built in 2013.
This is good.
in a way, just to speak that we have good support of
Right, right.
our community to invest in our schools, I guess. in a way.
I don't see, is this mission statement down here again? Every student, every day?
Yeah.
Mantra.
It's,
The tagline, and I think the mission statement's a little longer.
yeah,
It
our
is.
mission statement is
I
actually.
picked that just because it was
Short.
That's
It's
what
short.
we use.
short and
Yeah.
sweet.
Do you want mission
It was
statement
very
pulled
prevalent on
out?
your website.
You want mission statement pulled out? Or is the every student, every day enough?
It's in detail, but right on that paragraph there, I mean, to the point, it's only like,
It's
10
like-
I'd say at the most we'd say 10 minutes.
It's 5 minutes.
Yeah,
remains,
Five-
yeah.
5
New road
minutes.
is-
5 minutes remains, yeah.
Not with the route I took.
Well, I can believe that.
It depends
Now-
where you go.
Now Trent, we understand your problem.
Yeah.
I was following a Chevy here.
There's a
I
new
got it.
road that just goes straight to Ames, so.
Yeah, okay.
We'll go around next
Are
time.
you going to the city administration office?
Yeah, exactly.
And Trent, in the first paragraph says Gilbert Community School District is growing, it should be is a growing district. Is there any glaring about your district or your
No,
community
no,
that's
you
missing?
hear on, you got it.
Just want to know about the new vice president.
That's right.
We'll let them dig into that.
We don't
Yeah,
really
right, you're gonna have
talk-
to take
We
a
didn't
walk
really
away.
talk about it, portrait of a graduate, is that, I'm asking you guys, like, if that even does that matter? That's, because really we say our AIW and
I
PBL,
think-
we're right in the middle of that, does that
I-
even matter to?
I think that's enough detail. I'd try to keep it to 2 pages. like
It is a
that.
big deal, but it's also a statewide effort. And so,
Oh, it is, we're all doing it now.
well, it's a push in the state to
Oh,
do that
gotcha.
portrait of graduate work. So somebody from Iowa's probably going to assume that work is being done. Somebody out of state probably not.
Okay,
But,
never mind then. It's just like AIW, we don't talk about that as much anymore, but. I do think it's funny.
Those are the only comments I had.
I think it's
good.
fine,
I like your district and community well.
I think so.
Jeff, anything else on it? Andrew,
No, I think it was good.
John? Gail? Good, okay. So Gail, you'll have that. I'm gonna proof it again, have Kevin proof it again, and we'll get this updated. Then you'll have this Monday to put on Teach Iowa. Unified Talent now. And then if you'll just give me a prompt to let me know when you post it, I'll go double check hyperlinks and then I'll get it all on my outlets as well. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let's jump into salary and benefits conversation. I do not need all the details on salary and benefits, but the things that were listed on our initial questions are the things that candidates tend to ask us when they're considering the job. They love a phone call and are usually humbled by the call and wonder why we're calling them or what they had that stuck out. And question 2 tends to be, what are they offering? And so we want enough information that we're not spending your money, but we can say, yes, they'll consider relocation, or here's the range. But you might say, well, why are you not asking us about, dental? Well, they don't tend to ask us so much about dental, or though these are the 10 things they tend to ask. And Gail, I believe you sent me the current contract today,
I did not send anything today, but I did
I
send
do,
you.
the contract, yeah. And I did take a look at that, but I've not looked at the detail I want yet. So
What's the contract we have here?
that is the contract. I just haven't looked at it
Okay.
enough to give you any specific feedback about, any other terms. So let's talk about, I'll give you, and thank you to Gail and Tyler for giving me some updated numbers here that I'll share with you. And I think you had these via the email as well.
Yeah, everybody should have these.
So these are the numbers that were sent to you. Current superintendent salary with experience there.
Trent, could you share your screen, please?
Yep, sorry about
I
that.
kind of, to be honest, can you help me understand? Okay,
Yep, I'll share this quick.
Yeah.
Should be good.
just to make sure I'm reading it right, because I didn't.
My understanding is this is the current superintendent salary as well as the averages. And these averages are average years, is this conference?
This is our new raccoon, yes, this is
Raccoon
our
River
new conference.
Conference.
We just entered a new conference, and so we look at years of experience in us, so that's what we do.
So this would indicate the average years of experience, superintendent experience would be 7 in your conference. And the average salary, not benefits, salary is 173, 132 in your conference,
Yeah.
similar size schools. Here's where you're at with your current superintendent.
What's the, that's where I think I got lost a little bit, I apologize, but the 21, total experience 21.
That would be, I'm assuming, principal, or maybe they were a teacher for 3 years, and then principal for so many years, and then superintendent. So total years of education experience.
In the conference
No, for
No,
our
they're-
superintendent.
in their career, in like in administration?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And these increases, I'm assuming, are,
The 169 is the current year we're in right now.
got it.
So salary information is always a year behind. And so then when we get the new salary for the year, we just look to see if we're getting closer to that gap.
And so, go ahead, John.
So you just need a kind of a recommendation of what we're thinking and starting with here.
Yeah, I would say your top, I'd like to know your bottom at least, and your top. You can always offer more. I'm not going to hold you to that. But candidates want to know if it's worth their time applying or not.
What do you guys think, 170 to 180?
Well, here's what I think. We got 21 schools. If we're supposed to use this as a barometer,
Yeah,
we got 21 schools and we're 6th. Okay, retirement benefits, there's 21 schools, we're 9th. Health insurance, there's 21 schools, we're 6th. Other benefits, 6th. Compensation out of 21 schools, total 18.
Well, I didn't get the total.
Do you have to consider?
I think I got cut off a little bit, but this last column, whatever that
Because we're a smaller
is
school.
18.
A little bit.
It's more expensive to buy it.
Oh, okay.
I noticed on the other one, our total.
I didn't think that,
That's
but I figured you just
reflected.
added a certain ones.
Yeah, the data was a little
Do you
older,
have
so
that
then
up
we
there?
updated the new.
Because it didn't include the.
Gail,
sum
can you
of all
get
of
that,
the
can you get
costs.
that page up on the?
Trent will have to pull it out.
Which one is it?
It's this one, but it's all of it. I got cut off. Is that it right there?
That's it.
Is
What
it
I'm
based
saying
on-
is that
Yep.
total compensation must have a
It's not
formula,
added.
it's not total.
No, it just didn't add up all of the numbers across. It's missing the 21,654.
So where's that put us, Tyler, on there? I know you have to do some quick math on your
This-
sheet. No, I mean, on your sheet, where's that, what level does that put us?
For a total,
Yeah, well, I mean, you just have to figure out what number we are, because we're 18th on the
Oh.
one.
We're 207.9 total, yeah, and that's 21,000.
And so where does that rank comparatively to everybody else? Because quite frankly, if you look at the amount of students we have with what we're paying, we're not bad. I mean, 6 is a good number, okay?
Down below, it says recommended salary range 150 to 170. Is that
based off of your input? I mean, I imagine you guys.
Well, he's at
have that,
we're at 164.
Yeah, that was what I recommended before I knew the update to 169. I'd still say 160 to 180 is probably a pretty decent range. I'd up it a little because I knew this is 2018-19, so when I had the new numbers, I'd go up slightly.
Yeah.
Because if we get somebody that's,
Someone's got great.
he or she is a great candidate but has less experience, might be on the lower end, I'm assuming, and
Is that range usually 20,000? What's the normal range?
We like 20,000 because it gives you the most flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're only looking for a range?
160 to
Oh, that's
180.
fine, I'm
Yeah.
sorry I did all.
No, I think
That makes
160
it 160 to 180.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, it's good to get spinning on it early, Jeff, because we'll need to get down to it at some point.
Yeah, I suppose, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good with that, that's a great range. Especially if you guys think it is.
It is good.
The top end of that.
Well, we're probably better ask the most important person over there, Gail. We got enough in the cookie jar to make this happen?
No, I think that's a good range, because where we're currently at, we're right in the middle, so if you
Yeah.
get somebody with a little bit less experience, you can offer a little bit less. If you have somebody with a lot more experience, and then, and that really intrigues you, and they're like, yeah, then you're right, if they agree to,
Is that an
Come,
average
then.
trend?
Yes, this is the newest data from the state SAI. Superintendents across Iowa was 159, 251.
Do you have that page? Can you send that to her?
Sure.
Okay.
It's from SAI.
Yeah, I'd like to have that.
I'll send it to you. I'll make a note here.
It has to be the right number to make sure that somebody doesn't turn away because of it, right? It
Yeah,
has to
but
be
if
a
you do one-
reasonable number.
But
And I
then,
think
but
that's
then you
fine.
gotta add in retirement benefits and,
Yep.
I was looking at all this and, some of the benefits are no big deal, but if we're gonna buy life insurance from somebody and they're not insurable, what happens then?
Yep.
There's other bridges to cross
Oh, yeah.
when we start putting a package together, but I can easily see that it'll be over 22,000 a year on the package side.
And my only point is, this isn't the negotiation of it, right?
Right.
This is a number that tells somebody, you know what, this lines up about with what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, this is.
And so we've got a 20,000 range, I think that's adequate. When we get a finalist or we have some, then that's, I think, where we have to take a look
Oh, yeah.
at real particulars.
Sure.
Because they could walk away from this, right?
Yeah,
We would-
and if somebody says
We're not
that
gonna
this
look at
range
it.
doesn't
No,
fit, well,
right?
then
We
it probably
wouldn't.
doesn't fit.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. We got
Right.
1,500
I'm
kids.
okay.
Well, and that's what we want. I talked to some out-of-state candidates that are looking at Iowa from Iowa.
oh, sorry.
And we want to know, and they're asking, I say, I'm meeting with them Thursday. So
Yeah.
this is a summary. Thank you, Gail, for sending this as well of your current benefits package for your superintendent. Probably some of them consistent with for the whole admin team. So some of the things we want to pull out there, and I'm assuming you're doing full family insurance for the superintendent?
Yes, all of
Wanna
our
continue?
administrators get full family insurance.
And we don't need the details on that. I mean, when they become finalists, we will give them the details. But we want to just simply be able to say, yes, full family provided. TSA,
We do not, we do offer an HSA if they take a different health insurance option.
Okay.
It is.
And then we will put the difference in
Put the
an
difference
HSA
in.
plan for
That's
them.
a great offering.
That's very, very common.
when you say different health insurance, what do you mean by
We
different?
have 3
Low
options.
deductible
Well,
or high
actually,
deductible?
yeah, we have 3 options, but really for administrator, you're only looking at the Alliance Select, the low deductible, and then the HSA option. The other one really doesn't benefit them. And so, if they take the HSA plan, the difference of the premium will be put in the HSA plan for them.
That's a great thing.
And then if there's any money on the table of that dollar amount, we will also pick up the vision. Vision is an employee paid, but if there's money still on the table,
So
That
they use it
22.
like a cafeteria.
I think
yeah, the package is 22,613 a year. So, and some of them only need employee spouse. Some of them only need employee children. So we have different options.
Nice.
So if it's 22,613.
Well, as a former superintendent, this would be an attractive package.
Okay, cool.
So I can see, unless you're going to change anything on here, I see cell phone. I mean, if that's the same, then that's, what we'll mention. One thing I don't see on here though is relocation, and I don't need a dollar amount, but is that something you're willing to negotiate with them?
Absolutely. I think we are.
Jeff thinks we are.
So, well,
Yeah, I do. I don't know how you hire somebody this caliber
you gotta
and
try.
tell them to go rent a U-Haul.
I agree. I think
And generally, the easiest way to do it is just
Give them
Say,
extra.
here's the dollar
That's the lump
amount,
sum.
it's taxable.
What have you seen in your past?
Yeah, most do. It's got, for your auditor, to keep them happy, it's gotta be a dollar amount. They turn in receipts, so it's not like they're gonna
It's not
take it as a
salary, it's-
stipend. Yeah,
So what has been a dollar amount listed?
up to 5,000 usually.
Let's say I've had 3,500 in one district and 5,000 in the other personally, so it's.
Can we put that range in there? Can it be a range?
I just say
I think
negotiate.
you just say a number.
Yeah, and you,
All right, we're
So
gonna.
one time deal.
Yep.
And then last thing I think I need for the benefits information here is, most superintendents aren't gonna move for a 1-year contract. Are you comfortable with a 2 and possibly 3-year contract?
I just read board policy, a 3-year contract is a 3-year probationary.
Probationary.
contract.
By state code?
That's coming up on the new board policies. People aren't reviewing.
but that changed statewide, right?
I've got a
Yeah, yeah.
scheduled meeting.
That's chapter 20 change, yeah.
3-year probationary, meaning,
The initial contract, no matter what, if it's 1, 2, or 3,
Doesn't matter.
it's all probationary.
Unless they're a candidate from your district and you don't have internals, so.
so the meaning of that is,
Yeah.
Due process.
Well, I think you want to
Switch one.
build the positivity of, gosh, we're in this for 3 years.
Yeah.
We think it's going to be good, there's really no downside.
Yeah.
right,
What it just means, the probationary, is that what you were asking?
right,
It just means that if, say something went south, you really, the candidate has limited to no options. It's just going to be your decision. That's oversimplified, but
Yeah.
it's not a long, drawn-out process. They have no recourse after you during probation.
Their due process is.
I should let the
as long
law
as you-
professor talk.
As long as you follow, letting them know by May 15th, I think is the
Yep.
deadline that you're not gonna renew their contract. You pay them out through that year, but they have no recourse above the board at the state level for due process.
Yeah.
Because they're
So
probationary.
you're gonna pay them an extra year
You're gonna pay them out that year,
Yeah.
but you don't have to, pay
under
them all.
probationary time?
Correct. And if there's any just cause, if they did something silly, just cause doesn't,
And that's
Right.
that's a
Totally
statewide thing. I mean, that's chapter 20.
We're in for that.
I'm in for 3 years.
Yeah. John?
Good
you
deal.
said that to begin with.
Yeah.
now here's what I'm gonna tell candidates, and they're probably listening. Yeah, they're looking at a 2 or 3 year, and then we get down here and say, hey, they're gonna give you a 3 year, and, we sweeten the pot a little bit.
Okay.
We wouldn't expect somebody to move their family, do all of that for a year,
Well, I think it just sends a signal that we're kind of on
We're-
long haul
Right,
board.
we want to find the right person.
We don't
You
consider
have the right
ourselves as
attitude,
stepping
that's
stones.
Yeah, I mean, we got to sell a little on our side too, or not a lot.
So is there any other contract language that has come up in the last 6 months or that you forecast, Gail, that you're going to be changing between now and February 15th? Or that you want to review?
I don't know.
I would just implore you to take a look at that, because what we don't want to do is get to the 18th and start negotiation, the last, 3-year contract at this amount, and then say, oh, we wanted to look at mileage, or we wanted to look at something else too.
So
So
I'd run it past Drew, Gail, just say,
Okay.
hey, here's the situation.
Or initial contract.
Just to make sure we don't have,
Well, you haven't looked at this contract yet, right?
nope, I perused it. I haven't looked at it in detail.
Let's let him look at it and then let's move after that.
Drew Bracken,
Well, with Drew, our attorney as well, to be like, hey, I'm content with everything, because you only have these openings every once in a while, when you have a change in leadership. And so I think it would be worth the legal fees to be like, yeah, this has everything in it that I think it should have.
Fair enough.
the things I always look for, just to say it, is evaluation. It's an annual evaluation, routine evaluation in there. Which, by the way, new one's coming July 1. So the timing is good. And then it's just, it's the other national conferences and some of those things hammered out, so you're not guessing for a first-year superintendent, or they're not guessing either. I will look at it for you too, but if you're working with Drew Bracken, you're in good shape.
Okay.
He's great. Okay, let's take a look at, so you have a better idea, and Gail, this is in your packet, a lot more than what I'm going to show tonight. And Andrew, we're going to give you one of these. There you go. Kevin has it too, so you can see what to anticipate every board meeting, every step of the process. But I want to show you some, yours can be totally different than these schedules. Okay, but where I'm going is a couple of formal interview schedules that have worked well. Just so you get an idea what that formal interview day on the 15th could look like. So I'll give you just a couple examples. This is a formal interview schedule where you bring 3 candidates in. Remember, those are mixed interview teams. So you have a group of 20 or less normally in group A. So you got teachers, community, administrators normally in that group. Notice the board is separate in the afternoon, starting at 1 o'clock. hour and a half, which allows for either a short presentation and 15, 18 questions, or 20 to 22 questions of the candidate, 5, 10 minutes as well. So pretty comfortable. Interview B there, and then the community and district tour there, again, is normally the same person, and they see the highlights of both the community and the district, obviously. That could be Lindsay, if you want him to do that, could be other people, or it could be a handoff, where sometimes it's the superintendent or administrators and they're handing off to the mayor or something like that, or a combination, they do it all together. But I do think it's critical you pick the right people to have the conversations and showcase your community and your district.
Yeah, we'll pick those.
Yep. And just so you know, and I'll say this publicly too, we also go back to those people and ask for feedback.
Okay.
So even though it's not a formal interview, sometimes some interesting things, even from spouses, come out of the tours. So keep that in mind. Yep. And then the board interview there, staggered again, so you see the candidates in the same order. Notice we give you a break there for supper, because we also need about 45 minutes to finish crunching the data for you. And then we come back in closed session to review the data. 90% of the time, the board makes an offer that night, and we will have a hire that night, because there's just no other variables. But you certainly don't have to make a decision that night either, or an offer. So that is one that has worked well for us. Here's a condensed one that has some similar components, but the district and community tour broke out. So you can have different people doing those. This one we comprised once because the board up there on the right came in and did an initial interview, and then and not the majority, but a couple board members wanted to sit in other interviews to get to know the candidate a little better and see how they went. So they sat in, and then the board came back together at 3:30 for the other two interviews, and then a 6 o'clock closed board meeting. Notice those are an hour, so you have about 15 to 18 questions there, plus the candidate, 5, 10 minutes roughly. So a little more condensed.
So again, we're gonna have staff and students in some of the interviews, so we just then pull
All
them out of
mixed. They're
Yep.
all mixed groups, right?
And we'll help you with numbers and breakdown. You have to use your administrators, whatever, because we don't.
So let me ask you this, the other one was an hour and a half, correct?
Yep.
So what has been your experience of what happens on that last 15 minutes? Is it a rush and they run out of time? Or are they kind of begging for more questions at the end? What's the best length? Is an hour and a half great, or is an hour great? Gets them in, gets them the answers, gets them out. Tell me the number.
I'd say an hour and 15 is kind of ideal, but that extra 15 minutes gives everybody in the interview time to give feedback and take a quick break.
Okay.
So
All right.
the interview
That's my
time,
favorite- that's my favorite
session
too.
is not
That
good.
is pretty
That
hard.
looks pretty tight.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I mean, I didn't.
It is.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff.
Yeah, you don't want to.
The next and
Okay.
around. and-
So I think we're good with an hour and a half. then,
Community
right?
tour will take 10 minutes.
I was just gonna say, that's funny, what do you go through 5 times?
It's our 4 minutes.
Would you have two groups of mixed interview teams if it ends up being Zoom?
No, it's a great point.
Well, it kind of depends.
Say that again.
If it's virtual.
Yeah, you'll have the option depending, who knows what COVID's going to be by February.
Right.
Who knows? But it's worked pretty well in the past to where, you'll have maybe 20 people on two teams. That's 40 people maximum probably if it's face to face. If you do it virtually, Trent would set up, or one of us sets up the camera and the candidate's there, and then it can zoom out. You can have 100 people involved in getting feedback or whatever number that you want. And it also changes your schedule because you only have one time slot built in there.
Right.
So you're not really picking a schedule
Yeah,
tonight. You're getting your head around some of the
Cross
stuff.
that when we come to it.
It's easy. We would still facilitate, you can still get all the feedback, still their questions, just we're asking them, they're sitting there, we're zooming it out.
Yeah.
And we've done it 5, 6 times now, so.
It does work. It's,
I mean, this is a once every 10, 15-year deal, so I think the day is a good approach. Is
Let's
make
go,
sure
we
we
don't.
don't,
I agree.
make sure we,
Yeah, I'm
like
good
where
with
Jeff
that.
was going, we don't get there and go, wish we had another 15 minutes.
Yeah, and given what we know now, I think it's gonna look like a Zoom for the groups. I mean, it would have to be something radically changing, that's gonna be the case, so.
But the nice thing about that too, John, is that, if you're bantering about 5, 8 extra people,
put them on.
put them on. Get their feedback.
Yeah.
So, you can have a few more people involved than trying to socially distance, a group of 20.
Yeah.
Now, here's the one, I'm gonna set you up for success on this one. Notice the administrators on this one are in the mixed interview team. Okay? Your administrators are probably gonna want their own time, and there's benefits to it. There is benefits to the administrators. directors having their own time because they can ask specific questions and they're reporting directly to the superintendent. So notice that's not in here. I have schedules with the administrators pulled out, which is normally when I say administrators, that's directors, administrators, sometimes TLC coaches. So I want to be clear, we have schedules like that too. We can pull them out. If you did a Zoom session, you could put, that Zoom group mixed here and then administrators here. So that's an option too that I didn't show you right here, but that's the one thing that often comes up here as well, that the administrators like their own time.
What do you recommend on that? You're in the business, so.
If you want feedback from your,
Tell me the pros
I
and
feel like
cons of
that's
that.
vital. I'm sorry. I feel like our administrative feedback is gonna be vital.
What's the con to it?
you're gonna get their feedback regardless because they're gonna have a few questions. The difference is that they can ask a lot more of their questions
Yeah.
if they have their own time.
The other thing, and Trent and I have talked about this, but being a former superintendent, that's other than working with the board, that's the most critical group for a superintendent to have success. And it gives the superintendent candidates an opportunity to get to know
Right.
the closest people that they're working with. So from a candidate's perspective, I always liked that. Now, I'm gonna be blunt, and I don't know your administrators from a hole in the wall. I don't at this point. Some districts, that's a concern because they don't know that they're, maybe one of the issues that needs to be dealt with is that they've got a couple of administrators that need to be jacked up. So then sometimes boards don't want to give them their own slot. That's something for you folks to figure out and talk about. But from a candidate's perspective.
So let me pose this to you. After they get done with that question and answer session, they are gonna be the type where they know which one they want. Then it comes to us and we don't hire that
And we
one.
go left.
That's the concern.
Yeah,
absolutely
That was my
is.
question exactly too, is
Okay.
that you get, then all of a sudden you've got a disconnect.
But then that go back to your
I think that goes
objective
back to
Yep.
setting,
analysis,
setting
right? I
expectations.
mean,
And we set those interviews up if you do have administrators, just like we do with the mixed interview team, that your input is invaluable, but understand, and we say it very nicely, but you're not making this decision. We're not gonna ask you to make a recommendation. You're gonna
This
get
is
strengths and
gonna work for
weaknesses.
us.
But I
Yeah,
think as I kind of think about that, the engagement is pretty important.
Yes.
Oh, I-
So I guess I think the upside is a lot better than the downside, and I think, certainly before we make a decision, I'm content with the administrators bring in whoever their speaker is, or we speak with all of them before we make a decision, because, I don't know, there's a direct report, so anything that we want buy-in, it's that group.
Yep.
Now, if it's different, we have that chance to talk about it.
but I guess that's the crux of the question I brought up at the beginning of the meeting, is aligning that and using this firm to do that. So I guess I actually wouldn't want the administration to come in here and tell us who their pick is. I would want you to manage this process such that we're all
You'll get
going
data
towards the
from
same
them.
spot, right? This is the objective, right? So I want to make sure, at least from my standpoint, that we're using your experience. And that's one of the things I think we all talked about, was this mixed interview and helping drive an objective
Yeah, that was
decision.
one of the things we liked. And I guess from my standpoint, I like what he said, and I really like what you said. So sometimes I look at you guys and say, fix that. Make that work for us.
And I'll tell you what I would
Yes.
do. I'd say pull your administrators, directors, perhaps TLC coaches out, but then don't take the text, and we'll tell them this. This is the feedback process. You fill it out like every other group, and I promise that we've talked to the board. They're gonna look at your feedback very closely, but you use this process to give feedback. Don't try to get to the board
Perfect.
another way.
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the key, right? It's
Yeah.
not that we're trying to get them to us. I want them to talk to these candidates. I
Well,
want them to ask the questions and things that we might not think of.
I
And
think the process completely fair.
doesn't it matter? I mean, it matters to us if they do have
Yeah.
some input in
The other
this
thing
because
is,
they are leaders
we
in
will
our
not
district.
debrief with any group until they all provide their individual feedback.
Individually.
So we don't let one person dominate the conversation, then everybody say, yeah, that's how we gotta go. No.
Yeah.
Feedback, then we debrief if you want us to take other stuff to the board. Same with the administrative team.
So you guys you're in when all this is happening, you're directing the groups how to do, what to do.
Yes.
But then we all have to be in sync that that's the process.
Yes,
Oh, I think
that there aren't
we're
the back way.
Yeah, I think we're all.
Yes.
Because I mean, I'm okay with whatever we decide, but I don't.
You want consistency.
Yeah, I don't want backdoor stuff if we all agree we're not running backdoor stuff.
Yep. Agreed.
So I hear you saying you probably want the administrators and directors
Yes.
their own time. you like that schedule with an hour and a half, and if we move to the electronic interviews because of COVID and to get more people involved, then perhaps we put them in that slot and have a larger group Zoom. Otherwise, we'll massage the schedule from there. Okay. Okay.
And I think having their feedback before they talk.
Yeah.
You know, is important.
Yep.
So that you don't have group just the same as us as well. Yeah.
The other nice thing too, I just want to say this up front, is when we bring you this data here, you're going to know where the groups won't see this feedback, right? You're the only one that sees all the feedback from the day. But let's say your teachers, your community members, your administrators rate somebody lower and you go with somebody else. You're going to know based on the data why. It usually goes back to a couple questions. And we're going to say, this is probably why they rated them lower. So then this will set you up, because they don't know this data, to go and say, teachers union, here's why we went with this person to get ahead of it. Administrators, we want to let you know, these were the priorities. And then we're writing behind the scenes the announcement to say, the highlights that set this candidate apart are, right? So they know what the priorities are and what push this person ahead. So we can forecast too if it's not a slam dunk with a person. Just wanted to mention that. The other thing I want to mention here as I'm jumping around a little bit, pre-negotiations documents. So as candidates progress, we give them these ranges. It gets a little more serious. But I want you to remember, when we go from semi-finalists to finalists, we ship them a document. It's called pre-negotiations. And we say, if you're the candidate that gets the offer, what's it going to take to accept the job? So we know going into that final, not who's going to get the job, but if they get it, they're probably going to have close to this to accept. Doesn't mean you have to offer them that, but you will say things like, well, it's going to take a 3-year contract and closer to your higher number. Because we promise them we're not going to share it to you directly. We don't want to come down to just salary.
So do we ever sign non-disclosures on any of this? Like share names, share information?
With other firms or?
No, with the candidates. I mean, what happens if they're going to get a job but they still have a job?
Oh, they can apply confidentially through us as long as they check that in the application until they're a public finalist.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a check box on that too, that they have to request that.
Okay.
Great question. And that's come up already.
Okay. All right.
Comes up quite
And
often.
I think we talked about it when we were here too, but the confidentiality piece really, really is important, especially for you, because you're going to see the candidates every Monday and who they are. That has to remain confidential.
Thank you.
Yep.
Otherwise you lose people.
Besides the outlets, your Teach Iowa, all my outlets, I'm just going to cut to the chase. Do you want this job to be on Des Moines Register?
No, I don't care.
Okay.
What did you say?
I don't think it's necessary, but I'm just asking. And we will put it on the national outlet as well, the AASA job bulletin. So it'll be out there on that.
No,
I
I'm
think.
just happy with everything I had on it.
Okay. Another thing I want to mention, and then we'll get to number 7, and then I think we're doing real well. Had a nice conversation with Lindsay the other day, and he basically said that he will do whatever the board wants him to do in this process. So I told him I often recommend, if he knows a candidate that has applied, he can certainly provide that information to me or you directly. I asked him about the formal interview process, and if you asked him to do one of the tours or part of the tours or make himself available that day. And he was very kind and just said, I will do what the board wants me to do in this process, but I won't feel offended if they don't ask me to do things either. We've really just had a nice conversation. So I just want to let you know going into this that was the conversation, and I think he will do his part to make sure it's a real smooth transition. So the last thing I have on our list here is, and I'm going to ask you to maybe email me this or catch us after the meeting. We're not in open session here, but if you have candidates that you've run into at the IESB or your principals bring up or something, we will email them and talk to your administrators. But we want to know those folks. Hopefully we've reached out to them or talked to them already, but if not, we want to make sure we turn over all the rocks and talk to people. So if there's somebody in particular, it's just a standing invitation to let us know as you're seeing candidates every Monday. So I think, unless there's anything else that comes to your attention or questions, that's what we need. And Kevin mentioned this. We're going to leave you, and in that packet is, you have that, Tyler. The best thing that the biggest thing we need you to do between now and when we meet again is start to brainstorm people that you want involved in this process. Yep. Because that's one thing we can't do, but I would also ask you not to approach them. Just start to brainstorm behind the scenes. Then we meet next, we will start to narrow that list and send out a unified communication with them. So,
So again, just per team, you said roughly 20, I mean, give or
Yep.
take. And then, so that breaks down to about 4 per, 4 students, 4 staff, is that kind of what you're?
yeah, you see, is it yellow
Should be a
highlighted?
spreadsheet in there that says,
Should look like this. That's kind of the ratio that we would
Mine
recommend.
highlighted, Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Now, you can change that. It's just, we get that question a lot, so that's kind of the recommendation.
yeah, that makes sense.
And then if it's Zoom, then
It can be double that,
It
but
sure
make
can.
sure that
Well,
we
if
keep
it's
those
Zoom, we
ratios.
don't have to cut anybody out.
100%.
Well, you wouldn't want, all community members and not have the other, you want to have the ratios like.
you still want to keep some kind of control, not in a bad sense, but
Otherwise, it's not a mixed
Equal
interview.
to keep your ratios somewhere in the ballpark.
You wouldn't want, you know.
if we, as we decided to have the administrators have their own time, then would they be in the mixed interview as well? Or would we be in the mixed interview as well, or that's just
It's
the
not,
other groups?
and you'll have your own session with each of the candidates, and then with Trent, and sometimes board members will go sit in on a mixed interview just as an observer.
And that's okay.
It's okay, as long as you don't get a quorum in any of them, if that's face to face.
Oh, I got you, I got you. That's-
You know.
If you go with Zoom, what I would do is, you know, have your Zoom group, your mixed group, you know, ready to team A basically, and your administrators, directors be team B, and then you, the schedule works beautifully. If you don't, and it's in person, then we need to add a time slot and bump everything back or start everything early.
It'd be awesome if that problem wasn't just in person.
Now, notice, we didn't talk about this, but notice we don't factor in lunch here because, you know, your one candidate's down there about 2:30, but sometimes we do, maybe this is more for you, Gail, on that community and district tour, sometimes we factor in a light snack or something as part of the tour. So,
Is that community tour, is that usually like a 1-person deal, husband and wife deal, 2-person deal?
you know, it varies a lot.
Yes.
We've had everybody from superintendent, mayor together to husband, you know, to handoff, superintendent hands off to somebody. We've had it where the administrators do part of it. It can,
Never been board member though, is that right?
No, I don't think it
I
is.
wouldn't think so, because they're coming back.
You know, the thing
Oh, it
that,
doesn't make sense. for
but take that part real seriously, because you gotta remember, as a candidate, I always look at that through those lenses, that, you know, I'm gonna interview you as a board, I will have done my homework.
Yeah.
You know, those impressions, so you want people that are going to be positive for the school, the district, all of those, pick them carefully, those, and plus, those insights that they get in those informal conversations, incredible. So pick those carefully.
usually have spouses. I mean, we probably have some spouses along. Some people will come ahead of time though, and maybe not bring the spouse that day, but they'll ask to come another day and, you know, tour. And we'll cater. I mean, we wouldn't want somebody to not take the job because their family wasn't on board, so we
No,
want to front load all
we'll
that.
be ready for it.
Well, I hope this was a productive night. You have his contact information, my contact information. Our goal is to stay 2 steps ahead for you. But this is productive, and this is what we need to go to work with the survey and the job posting tomorrow and next week. So anticipate candidates starting the Monday after Thanksgiving, where you'll start to get updates. Again, they're confidential. And then we'll be doing the legwork to recruit between now and when it closes. And we'll stay in close contact.
Yeah, and I'd like to reiterate thanks, but also that, let's let Tyler still lead this deal, because he's working his rear end off trying to keep school open right now.
Okay.
I mean, it's an everyday job, so if you don't mind running point on this,
Yeah.
and I'll help you. I mean, if you want help, I'll ask Vice President, I'll help him.
Okay.
But, you know, he's got his hands full right now, and I appreciate it. He's working his rear end off.
No, I appreciate you knowing that.
Just again, I kind of go back to just the elephant. We touched on it earlier with COVID and the amount. Give me just, are you thinking 20 to 30 candidates total to apply? Just give me a number of expectations. I don't care if they go lower or higher, but what?
Yeah.
Typically, how many do you see?
Our average is 24.
Okay.
So I think you're going to be more than that, but I want to beat your expectations. So,
But we
and
don't-
it's quality. It's
but
all
we-
about quality.
And we don't have any basis for this year though either.
Yeah.
Your position's going to be, it will be an attractive position.
Yeah. Out-of-state candidates too, can you get any of those?
Yeah, we will. Matter of fact, a couple I've been talking with Iowa Ties. A couple I've been talking to have Iowa ties, but
Try to get home.
yeah.
Well, I say that because Iowa State, obviously, goes far from Iowa State, and sometimes people want to come back.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm going to make sure we get it out there on AASA and Indeed and some of those national.
That's why I really want to hit on proximity to Ames.
Is there an Iowa State? website, do you think that would be worthwhile that all the teachers,
Alumni type deal.
alumni coordinate
Fine.
to, something about
Youth, all right?
I just emailed a faculty member in the Education Leadership Department that I stay in close contact today, and she was gonna put something out on,
Their listserv.
yeah, yours and another to alumni, so I think I got that covered.
Yeah, because I would see, that there's a lot of nostalgia around.
Yeah.
I also do with you and I, because that's the other, so you never know, but I sent to you and I too.
And this is close to the, a lot of staff, obviously Iowa State coaches, and yeah, this is the district attends, so it's really close ties to Iowa State here.
Yeah, moving to the countryside is gained a little value last year.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Hey, get us out of here, Andrew.
Thanks, everybody.
Move to adjourn, oh, sorry.
Hang on.
Just
Oh,
one,
I can't move,
yeah, you can.
I can't.
Just was visiting with Gail, and so she'll send out sometime soon, just Google link, and just ask that everybody start putting names on it. So, I mean, while it's fresh, I know we don't have to make a decision, but let's just populate the same one, and, because then if we have the same names, then okay, it's already on there. But Gail will send that out.
And that'll be an email. And then just some processes. When Trent sends out the weekly interview, our candidates, what I'll probably do is we have a superintendent search Dropbox file. And then I'll probably label them like every Monday's date. And so then drop them in there, so that way you don't have to search to see what's new. What I'll label them like on Monday the 7th and Monday the 14th and.
Nice.
And then we'll do it that way. Okay.
Can I ask a point of clarification here? With Tyler being the point on the board, do you want me to send those candidates to you or copy both of you?
You can copy me.
Yeah.
Make sure
Send
Gail
Gail,
gets it.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just
And then
trying
I'll
to
send out-
protect everybody else's email box.
And I'll send out a reminder
that's good.
via email saying, hey, I put some
Check the Dropbox.
applicants in the Dropbox.
Yeah, and then, when you send out the times too, I want to make sure that I got those on my calendar.
Yeah, but they'll also be in the minutes, so, but I'll send out.
Okay.
And they'll be in the survey and all that stuff too for the general public. So thanks again for the opportunity to work for you guys, and anything comes up, certainly be in touch.
Great job, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.